But I have to tell you, we're also just getting in some breaking news tonight from Capitol Hill. This has just come in since we've been on the air. It's apparently started already. House Republicans met in a closed-door conference tonight and voted basically to scrap the Independent Ethics Office in Congress. This is the Office of Congressional Ethics. It was created 8 years ago after a particularly lurid period of repeated congressional scandals. It's an independent ethics office that investigates misconduct of lawmakers and staff members in the House. But there was a closed-door meeting of the House Republicans tonight, and they voted that instead of maintaining the independent Office of Congressional Ethics, they're going to put it under a congressional committee, under the House Ethics Committee. It sounds like a bureaucratic change, but what that means is there's no more independent ethics oversight of Congress. This means that lawmakers themselves now get to police themselves now for ethics, and this means that no ethics investigation information will have to be released to the public. They can police themselves now. Nancy Pelosi's put out a statement on this tonight. Quote, Republicans claim they want to drain the swamp, but the night before the new Congress gets sworn in, the House GOP has eliminated the only independent ethics oversight of their actions. Evidently, ethics are the first casualty of the new Republican Congress. Again, that news just breaking within the last half an hour. Joining us now is Ed O'Keefe, congressional reporter for The Washington Post. Mr. O'Keefe, it's really nice to see you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Happy New Year, Rachel. Good to see you.
Happy New Year. And happy new Congress. Let me ask you about this breaking news that we just got about the Independent Ethics Office in Congress. Where did that come from, and why is this an important change?
So the Office of Congressional Ethics was established back in 2008, essentially in the wake of the Abramoff scandal, the Mark Foley scandals. There was a public outcry, and they realized they had to set up an independent watchdog to basically field complaints and concerns about campaign improprieties, personal behavior, other things. It's existed for the last 8 years, barely has a set of teeth, and has, presented some information over the past few years that has led to the removal or the resignation of some lawmakers, but there's a belief that they could have done a lot more. What Republicans, let's be very specific about this, have done tonight is they had a closed-door meeting after the sun went down. Yes, those things actually do happen. And decided amongst themselves that when the new House convenes tomorrow afternoon, they're going to present a rules package that has to be voted on by Republicans and Democrats that will include closing that office and putting it under the House Ethics Committee. The reason is that a majority of these Republicans believe that the way that this other office has worked for the last 8 years is, in essence, unfair to them because it doesn't allow them a chance to appeal some of these complaints, and this new office won't be allowed to field anonymous tips, which is what the current one has been allowed to do. One other important thing to point out here, we know that Paul Ryan and Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy opposed closing this office because they don't want you and I having this conversation, and they don't want this to become a PR nightmare for them, frankly, as the new Congress convenes tomorrow. And this goes, it seems, against everything Donald Trump would have campaigned about, right? Draining the swamp and the desire to do, things here in Washington to make it a more ethical place. Well, this seems to run counter to that, and it'll be very interesting to watch Republican lawmakers tomorrow explain why they want to do this.
And Ed, on that point, the substance of this change, will there be a difference now in terms of us, the press, and we, the public, getting information about ethics complaints, about ethics investigations of lawmakers? Is there an issue in terms of just what we have access to when these complaints are made, when lawmakers are looked into in terms of ethical misdoings?
Absolutely, and it was already pretty bad to begin with because the process was so secretive that they couldn't reveal information. You couldn't get information out of this office for fear that they would get shut down the way they may tomorrow, frankly. But ultimately, we would get reports that either tell us that somebody was indeed facing some ethical questions or that they had been excused, but it was a months-long, very secretive process. It probably will be even more so now if it goes through.
And in terms of the politics here, you mentioned that very important point that House Speaker Paul Ryan and the Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, they didn't want to do this. They did not want this to be the first headline of the new Congress, that they'll be getting rid of the ethics office. that implies that they're having issues controlling their own conference. I mean, this vote tonight didn't involve any Democrats. This vote was Republicans only, and they lost it by a lot. If their leadership was telling them to vote no, the yes vote was 119 to 74.
Yeah.
That suggests some deep clefts in the Republican caucus, even before they get fully underway.
Well, anyone who's been watching this television show known as Congress for the last 8 years knows that clefts have existed, frankly, and I think this is just an example of the kinds of divisions we're going to see over the next few months. Yes, Republicans starting tomorrow are going to begin the process of trying to change Obamacare, revamp the tax code, undo the Dodd-Frank financial reforms of the last few years, and a host of other things. But they haven't come to unanimous agreement on how exactly that should be done. And you'll see plenty of disagreements over the course of this between hardcore conservatives who want to do it one way, mainstream conservatives who want to do it another, and those that realize that if they do too much of this, they could suffer some setbacks in 2 years in the 2018 elections. We've seen Democrats successfully run in the past against Republicans by saying they want to undo your Medicaid, your Medicare. Now they want to undo your Obamacare. Now they're going to give it back to the big banks and let them do whatever they want. Those kinds of campaign messages can work in some situations. And yet they say, and it's true, that they have a mandate because they have total control of Congress and they have the right to at least begin this process. We'll see how it goes.